you're still coaching. When the right opportunity comes along,
Right.
somebody calls you up and says, "Hey, man,
I'm gone.
You're ready to go.
Yeah.
You're still racing. So
Right.
let's go back and we asked you a little bit about why racing. So your family was heavy into cars and speed and all that.
Right.
But what was the first race car? What was the first race? What was the first car? What was where were you when you said, I want to drive that?
We started in drag racing. My brother's sitting back here. My brother would build the motor, and I would drive the car.
What kind of car?
We were Fords.
Mm-hmm.
We had these big Starliners with 427 cubic inches, and we could run. We thought we were really, really good, and then the Chrysler people asked us to come up to the Chrysler factory and race them. Richard said, my brother, we're never racing a factory team again. We weren't a factory team, but we were a good team.
Yeah. And where were y'all racing at?
In Ohio.
Ohio.
All through Ohio.
Okay.
And raced everywhere in Michigan. And it was kind of neat because when I went back, how about this? When I was a high school coach, you'll die, I taught driver's ed. How about that? And now when I raced at Michigan, I came in third at Michigan.
Yeah.
When I raced at Michigan, all the students I taught driver ed to came to the race.
Really?
And they all said, you didn't drive like you taught us.
Yeah. My God. So your racing bug came initially from drag racing. So
Right.
where were you when you said, I want to go drive a stock car or anything on an oval? Like what was how did that happen?
I was a coach at the Oilers.
Okay.
And being in Georgia a lot, I've been in Atlanta, Georgia Tech. I've been with the Falcons. Now I'm with the Oilers, and Bill Elliott was running. And they said he's from Dawsonville. I said, I've gone through Dawsonville 100 times. When we go for Christmas, I'm going to go up and see him.
Mm-hmm.
And just say hello. And we went up there, and, Bill was unbelievable. He doesn't talk to many people. If anybody tells you Bill's a real good friend of mine, they're lying, because to be a real good friend to Bill, he spoke to you twice.
Yeah.
So I go up there and talk, and then he has me go with Ernie. And Ernie says, you ought to drive a Busch car. I goes, really? He goes, you'd love it, and you'd be good at it. And we got to get you in a Busch car. And that's how.
So you drove a Busch car. That was the first car that was the first oval?
How about the first oval I drove was in Atlanta in mellow yellow, because Kyle Petty broke a leg out in Phoenix, I think it was.
Uh-huh.
And Felix Sabatas got me and said, we want you in this car. And I got in there and I was practicing, and NASCAR said, you cannot run these tracks without any experience. And NASCAR said, we're going to put you in a Busch car, but you got to run Myrtle Beach, Fallujah.
Yeah.
And it was kind of funny. The NASCAR guy looked at me and says, they have sent you to hell. And somebody told me I had to run all those. I went and ran all those tracks against. How about this? You want to know who I was racing against? I was going to run for Rookie of the Year. I was 54. And the other rookie was a guy 18. His name was Jeff Gordon.
Yeah.
How about that?
Yeah.
And who was running in that class? Are you ready? Do you remember Presley?
Oh, yeah.
Do you remember Mr. Excitement, Jimmy Spencer?
Oh, yeah.
The Burton brothers, the Labanis? I'm racing, and I says, these guys are good. Well, they all went on. In fact, Presley surprised me because your dad, when he'd come to the Busch race, loved to race Presley.
Yeah, they were rough.
Oh, they would rough each other up. And when he went to the Cup, he must have never got the setup, because he wasn't as good in the Cup, but in the Busch he was awesome. And Jimmy Spencer was awesome. I went to Atlanta. Remember Jimmy Spencer went to TV?
Yep.
So Jimmy Spencer, I'm going to race in Michigan. And he comes down and he goes, Coach, what are you doing? He says, you can't race this car here. I goes, that's the car I got. He goes, you can't race that car. You might as well go home. And I said, why can't I race it? You won with this car 3 years ago. He goes, we've left that technology. We've left that design. 'Cause my stuff was never new.
Yeah.
Well, we came in third chasing a guy named Kyle Busch. It was Kyle Busch and me coming around that track. Wasn't bad,
Yeah.
So we've had that kind of fun.
did I miss? I gotta go back. Did you just say that before you ever actually entered a Busch race, your first car was the Mello car that was the Cup car for Kyle Petty?
For Kyle Petty.
And so your first laps around an oval was in a Cup car for Felix Sabates, and NASCAR says you can't go out there and do this. You have zero experience.
Yeah, when I came there, I showed up then for a practice day, and I was in a Ford now, and they didn't know I was in the car. And I went out there and ran, and then they found out I was in the car, and they said, "Hey, where have you run?" I said, "Well, I was here in a Pontiac with the Mello Yellow. It was a practice day."
Yeah. Felix lets you hop in there and take some laps.
Yeah, and he goes, we can't let you race. You've never raced anywhere.
Wow.
I mean,
All right, so yeah,
How about that? NASCAR pulls me out of the car.
Yeah.
And guess who my spotter is?
Who?
Harry Hyde.
What?
Yeah, Harry Hyde's my spotter. He says, he tell me, Coach, he's coming up on your outside. Stay down, but get in the gas.
every day of his life is like The Hangover. It's just, I mean, like, what were you about to say though?
Well, I was just trying to paint the picture in my head, like that Felix probably, Kyle's, they're testing, probably don't have any, probably who knows who's testing the car for him because Kyle's hurt. So he calls Jerry up and says, "Come take a lap." I can see Felix doing that.
And guess who the crew chief was? He became
Gary Nelson.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And guess what? How about this? When he set the car up, I thought I was on a railroad track.
Oh, yeah.
The car, Bill Elliott says, "I've been chasing you all day. I can't get you." I goes, "It ain't me. I'm just pointing it and standing on it."
Yeah.
In Atlanta those days was unbelievable. Was half-mile corners, quarter-mile straightaways.
Right.
And if you wanted to be fast, you had to roll through the corners wide open, as you know, man.
Yeah.
I had a ball.
So he goes out there to test the car. Then he brings his own car, his Ford, to a true test. And he's out there running, and NASCAR walks over and goes, "Hey, Jerry, what experience do you have? Where have you ran? Because, if you plan on running this race, we need some credentials." And he's like, "This is it." They're like, whoa, you got to go, maybe you should run Myrtle Beach, Volusia County.
Oh, yeah.
So they sent him on a wild. Rougemont, rough.
Hickory. I had to go to
Hold
all
up. He's
those.
like, "Hold up. I got a gold card. What does that give me?"
So NASCAR's like, "You know what? Before you can run Atlanta, we need you to go tear this car up a bunch and go to these short tracks. That's sure to tear it up."
How about this? I gave Rusty Wallace the schedule they gave me. Rusty looked at it. He goes, "I'd quit. I wouldn't do it." That's just what he said.
Right.
Because of the tracks were just notorious for being wreck fast.
He went and did it, though. I
went and
he
hit all
ran
those
them all.
tracks. Ran every one of them.
So you ended up, I remember that. So you're running the Xfinity races or the Busch races.
Yep.
You also got into truck series, ran some truck races.
They asked me, remember there was a chassis builder here in town, Lofton.
Yeah.
And he did my chassis in the bush.
Mm-hmm.
He called me. He goes, "I'm building you a truck." I goes, "What are you talking about?" He goes, "There's going to be a truck series, and it's you."
Yeah.
It is you. And I said, "I don't know anything about it." He goes, "Doesn't matter. I'm building the truck." And that's how I got so the first year they ever had a truck series,
You were in it.
I was in it.
And
I ran the truck series for 7 years, but because of football and TV, I could run half a year. Mm-hmm. And then I'd have to go to work. So like the first year, if you look on the records, it says I finished 18th. I'm 18th and ran half the races.
Right.
I'm a fourth or fifth guy, but we have to leave.
Sure.
Because I was calling the football games on Fox and CBS.
Let me ask you a question. You weren't racing. So when you were the coach of the Falcons, you were the coach. Your last year with the Falcons as a head coach was 1993. You hadn't raced competitively in NASCAR at that point, right?
Well, in '91, when all the other coaches went golfing, I would go to a racetrack. So I was driving 91, 92, 93.
Driving what?
Cars in practice at tracks.
Yeah.
And then I qualified in Atlanta. You'll die. So now I'm the head coach, and I qualify in Atlanta in the Busch. And we're going to run, and you're going to love this. To my right is Harry Gant. A guy named Dale Earnhardt's in front of me. A guy named Dale Jarrett's behind me. I goes, "This is going to be awesome." And we woke up the next day, had 2 feet of snow.
Yeah.
And who would have known what would have happened if we now
They
when
canceled the race.
cancel the race? The snow was that deep.
Yeah.
When they reschedule it, we're playing the Rams. I can't be there.
Oh,
Yeah.
man.
I remember when that race happened, and I remember that because they canceled the race. Tony's dad was driving the Busch car with Tony Sr. as the crew chief, and Rick Bost and all those guys. They just built the farm shop. So we're back at the farm shop on Monday, and they unload the backup car, and the block had busted because it froze all the water in it.
Yeah,
wow.
Dad was so pissed off at Tony Sr. and them and they were all pissed off at each other because they'd forgotten to drain the block, so that motor busted.
Their pipe froze.
Let me tell you about racing back then. It looked like you're not going to qualify to get in a race. Remember Chad Little?
Yeah.
A guy like Chad Little would come over and says, if you don't qualify, I'll carry your sponsor so you get your money.
Yeah.
We'd break a rear end, and you won't even believe this. And Roush would come over and says, I got a rear end for you. Racing then was so family, and everybody wanted to beat your butt.
Yeah.
But everybody would do anything to help you. Am I right?
Yeah.
It was really awesome.
If you enjoyed that conversation with Jerry Glanville, then you need to listen to the rest of the podcast. The Dale Jr. Download is available on all major podcast platforms.